Welcome. This is The Deal with Danny Brown. I'm Danny Brown, and you're listening to my podcast where I'm going to be interviewing tastemakers, influencers, business leaders in real estate, finance, technology, entertainment, sports, and beyond. This is the first episode, the debut. The Godfather of Tenant Rep commercial real estate, Jim Travers, is our guest, a true icon and legend in the real estate industry, a character, funny guy, a pretty darn good quarterback, and also my father-in-law. How about that? Jim Travers is going to talk us through how he started in New York, how he came to LA, how he changed the game, some of the challenges he sees today, and where the real estate market is going, et cetera, et cetera. Looking forward to getting into it with Jim Travers. Thanks for tuning in. Jim Travers, welcome. We're fired up to have you here. So thanks for coming.
Thank you, Danny. It's a pleasure being here, and it's nice to see you all dressed up like the way you are.
I dressed up for you today. Once you leave, I'm putting on jeans and a T-shirt and maybe go surfing.
Okay, fair enough.
So happy to have you here. I'm glad you were able to take a few moments away from door knocking. But let's just get into it, start from the beginning. Why don't you tell us a little bit about where you grew up, where you went to school, where you started your career, and how you got to LA, the land of all the crazies.
I was born in New York City in 1947, and I was a New York boy for many years, and then moved out to the suburbs. And from the suburbs, I became very involved in the world of sports and became very popular. And so I had a very nice childhood as far as being the president of junior high school, very much involved in athletics. And then I made kind of a sharp turn when I decided to leave my parents and public school and go to boarding school. So I went to Cheshire Academy in Connecticut, which at the time I went there was a fee school to Yale. By the time I went there, it was a fee school to prison. The only thing
so it's perfect for you.
The only thing I didn't do, I didn't go to prison. But it was a very
You're the only guy that graduated that didn't go to prison?
So it was a very fine school. And from there, I went on to Cincinnati University in 1965.
Yeah, not quite Yale, but close enough.
Not quite Yale. And the reality is Cincinnati was a great spot for me where I became very involved, as I have been my whole life, in school politics, in school sports,
right,
and became a stepping stone to get involved in the business world. And that was the time, 1965 to 1969 was really the heart and soul of the Vietnam War.
Yeah. Crazy time.
And it became very, 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 very difficult and very emotional. And seeing body bags being delivered every night on TV
that's intense.
Was a very, very, very difficult time. And the school, as other schools, becoming very involved in protesting the war. And Cincinnati was becoming one of the hotspots because the SDS was where the SDS was a Student for Democratic Society. Abby Hoffman created that in Cincinnati, and the school was about to boil over.
So you were the president of the school at that while this was going on.
I got appointed to be the ombudsman, which is an ombudsman is a person that's able to understand how to diffuse conflicts.
Got it.
And because I was very involved with the school politics, mediator, and knowing all the players that were involved in every aspect. So I was very involved in the world of how to diffuse what could have been a tremendously major riots that were taking place. I knew all the players that were on the protesting side. I knew all the players that were causing all the issues, and they were buying guns and rifles, and it was a very, very tumultuous time.
Well, good training ground to negotiate big business deals.
As I mentioned yesterday, at Cincinnati, I was in a fraternity, and I was looking for an apartment to move out of the fraternity house, and I found a 5 or 6 building unit townhouses right across the street from an elementary school in perhaps one of the most difficult neighborhoods.
It was the hood in Cincinnati?
In Cincinnati. And so I'm driving by myself, and I see this townhouse, and I walk in, and this woman bought it, I forget her name, and did a phenomenal job of taking these old townhouses built in the early 1900s and made them beautiful. High ceilings, broken fireplaces.
Complete renovation.
And so it was empty because no one really wanted to move there because the neighborhood was really very difficult at
Got
best.
it. So it's a beautiful building in the hood. No one wants it.
No
and you
one
find
wants
it.
it. So I meet the super. I asked the super who owns the place. And I met with the woman. And I said to her, I will have this place leased up in 30 days. What's the deal? What's the deal as far as how am I being compensated for bringing everyone in? And she said, if you can do that in 30 days, we'll definitely pay you a very nice commission.
So you made a deal right there. It was your first real estate deal?
Within 30 days, I had the entire place leased with all the fraternity guys and all the guys that I knew.
So it becomes Animal House.
And it became an Animal House because in those days, obviously, I'm mentioning my age, but the Molly Goldberg show was when Molly Goldberg would open up her window and yell out to her family, it's dinner time or lunchtime. So the place was just full of all college kids and it was a ball.
So that's your first deal.
That was my first deal, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And then I graduated in 1969, and that was when the war was really starting to peak. And fortunately, at the time, I got a 4F playing football, and so I got a 4F from the Army.
Meaning 4F.
I got drafted in those days as a draft.
And it was a waiver because you had an injury.
I got drafted, and I had to fight it for about 35, 40 days. But fortunately, I got a punctured lung playing football in college, and I was able to get the doctor who operated on me to write a very strong letter.
Yeah. So let's rewind right there because we glossed over that. For those of you that don't know you as well as I know you, you actually are a pretty good quarterback. You were a high school star, and you had a horrible injury, and that pretty much sounds like it derailed you. But was there a time when you thought, hey, look, I'm going to pursue football and continue to play through college and maybe NFL? Because you actually do have a pretty high-level arm even at this day when we play.
Right.
You're throwing the ball 50 yards with the spiral, and it's pretty impressive. So I'm curious, when did sports end? And when did that become, hey, look, sports is done, I'm moving on to other things?
It was very clear. I tried out for the football team of Cincinnati, as you said, after all the accolades.
And ended up with a punctured lung or something?
And so I tried out, and that's when the new prototype quarterback, never forgets, August, like 103 degrees, we're out there sweating and working out, and a very prominent young man walks on the field, 6'4", 225, 230 pounds.
Not Jewish.
Not Jewish. Great cook. Comes in from Iowa. And he was the quarterback of the future.
And that was the end.
And that was the end. So I realized that was really the key.
No
and
NFL
Cook
dreams.
went on to be the quarterback for Cincinnati Bengals when the
there you go.
So that was the so that I played a lot. My football days were very high in the fraternity league.
Yeah.
But that was really it. That was the start.
And you had some major injuries, and that kept you out of the war.
Fortunately, at the time, it was pretty serious. But at the end of the day, it changed my life.
Yeah. So let's now get into your career arc. You finished school. What did you do first? Was real estate your first job? Did you do something else? How did you get into the commercial real estate business? And you were in New York, so how did you go from New York to LA? I'd love to hear a little more about that.
As I mentioned, so I graduated college at the peak of my career, and I went back home to the small bedroom that I moved out of when I was like 15 years old. My beautiful girlfriend that I had in college, we broke up. I'm totally miserable. I'm a flower child. I never worked a day in my life. And I said to myself, this is not part of the program. And I want to go into the Foreign Service. That's why I majored in political science. But because of the war, the timing was really not appropriate. So my father and I, as many kids that graduated college living in New York, you took out the New York Times classified section. And on a Sunday at the breakfast table, we went through all the classified ads.
That's how you found a job.
It was a brand new company called G.W. Michaels. These two guys, Michael Wolf and Michael Gott, just left Studley. They assembled the Citicorp building on 53rd Street and Lexington Avenue, which is a major success story for them. And they formed their own company. They wanted a runner.
So you become the runner.
So I went there.
That's your first job.
And so at the time, I was not a happy camper because the running position was all commission. I never worked a day in my life. I didn't have to. And now I'm knocking on doors, and I'm just being run over like a railroad train. I just could not make a deal.
So you're getting beat up. You couldn't get arrested.
Couldn't beat up, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. And make a long story short, after about a year or so, year and a half, I left the business. And my father had a very prominent garment manufacturing operation in New York City. And reluctantly, I went to work for him.
So you got beat up, spit out, and kicked out of the real estate business.
Out, and it was
that's how it all started for Jim Travers.
That's how it started. And so my father had a lot of little small companies in New York City that catered to the garment center. Hangers, bags,
right.
And he had a manufacturing company that manufactured all the racks with the four wheels, put the dresses on to go on the trucks. So he gave me this company, and had about 11 employees, and they were very nice guys, all different nationalities.
This is in the city. This is New York City,
on like 11th Avenue on 38th Street. It was really a tough neighborhood at the time, and I found it to be fascinating that I'm now starting to sell truckers and getting into the sales business. And I realized it takes a different type of personality to be a salesman than I was doing for a year and plus at the commercial real estate brokerage business. But what really changed my whole career is that these 11 or 12 employees that working for me, socializing with for breakfast and lunch, they were stealing from me.
Oh, no.
I thought that was the greatest thing in sliced bread because it was a pretty small manufacturing.
What are they stealing? What do you have? Like your equipment?
Inventory, all the pipes coming in, the wheels, and I just couldn't figure this puppy out.
Stuff was disappearing.
How
You didn't know where it
went? Guys taking all this materials, we're having breakfast and lunch together, and then I do inventory, and it's
something's not adding up.
Something's adding up. So that's what really told me myself, okay, this is a game changer for my personality. I worked with my father about maybe 8 or 9, 10 months at best.
So not even a year.
I went to my father on a Wednesday afternoon in the summertime. My wife Francine, your mother-in-law, was a receptionist at a bill on Fifth Avenue.
Hard to imagine her working, but okay.
And I said, Dad, the ball game is over. Thank you very much. I'm going back to real estate. And that's when.
So that was so bad. You're going back to real estate.
I go back to real estate because then I had a much better sense,
better perspective of how to
what was
yourself.
taking place.
So where did you go from there? I went to go
see Fran, and she gave me Yellow Pages, and that's when the whole thing started. It was a company called Douglas Elliman.
Douglas Elliman, yeah,
at
very
the time
well known.
Was the largest residential real estate firm in New York City.
Okay,
but it was owned by a very prominent developer called Peter Sharp and Company.
Mm-hmm.
And Peter Sharp owned the Carlisle Hotel, the Peninsula. They were major developers.
So he was a landlord developer.
Building major high-rise office buildings. And that's when they hired me because Peter Sharp Company just bought a building at 14 East 60th Street, which was a flop house hotel.
Got it. Drugs, prostitutes,
where the
not good.
Cabana was located down below, and said, here, kid, go lease it up.
So at that point, it's just a rundown piece of junk building.
Great location, but it was just empty.
Sitting empty.
So I devoted my life to those guys. Fred Wilpon, which owns the Mets, and Saul Katz were my mentors.
Huh.
And I made it into a medical building. And I'm virtually sleeping there. I'm going to conventions.
What?
I'm knocking on doors. I'm trying to get this building going.
Sleeping there, like literally sleeping there, like you had a bed in the building?
Because I was really devoted to get this building off the ground. And I'm knocking on doors one night around 6:30 to a doctor, and he opens the door, and I see a woman in stirrups. And I said to myself, that woman, something's going on. So when the doctor came out, I said, Jim Travers had the building across the street. And what were you doing there? He said, I was performing an abortion. I said, an abortion? That is a brilliant idea. And I then went and I found a Dr. Fossum who wanted to open up. It was New York City and was the first, New York State was the first state in the union to allow abortions. And
So
I
there
made
you
my
are.
first, I made
Light bulb goes off and
I
you-
made
oh.
a 25,000 square foot abortion clinic deal with Dr. Fossum.
Solid
It
deal
was a
right
huge
there.
deal, young
Yeah.
kid, and that's how it all
That got you
rolling.
going.
So that was the whole start
That's
of it all.
unreal. Was there any controversy with the abortions at that time? Once it was up and
Absolutely
running,
not.
and there was no
Dr. Fossum
picketing and
had
violence and all
nothing. It was very well run.
Yeah.
It was a new a vehicle being created
Yeah.
then called an SUV.
Yeah.
That was
How
brand
about
new.
that? That was brand new?
I used to go to LaGuardia Airport, pick up the women at the airport, drive them to the 1460th Street.
That's unreal.
Go upstairs to the 6th or 7th floor, check in, had a
that?
psychologist.
You were the abortion broker.
That's I was. I had a psychologist interview the women if they were mentally sound for it. 45 minutes later, the ball game was over.
That was it.
A recovery, another hour or so, and
Wow.
then back. All the women back on the SUV
To the
back
airport.
to LaGuardia Airport.
So they're
and
flying in from all over the place because this.
primarily along the East Coast.
Okay.
So it was basically
Fascinating.
a day visit.
Well, that is a history lesson right there. So you're starting to build a business in New York. Obviously, you're in LA. You've been in LA since '78. So what was the impetus? A New York guy, tough, brash, aggressive. You're known to be a New Yorker. How in the heck did you get to LA, and what happened when you did get to LA?
I left the Douglas Elliman Company. I went to work for a gentleman named Edward H. Gordon.
Yeah.
And Eddie is, and to this day, really the foundation of CBRE.
Got it. Yeah.
And so I worked with him, and I was also starting to make a major move in the commercial real estate brokerage business. And when I married your mother-in-law, I went to boarding school, as I mentioned. So I was out of the house at 15 years old. And I married your mother-in-law, Fran, right out of her house. And
God bless Francine.
Right, and so we got married, and as a bachelor, I was living at a beautiful, brand new 50-story apartment house on 57th Street,
Nice.
2nd
You're
Avenue.
living large?
Well, there's a pretty small in this office.
But still
it was
living large at
great-
that point in
great
your life.
situation.
Yeah.
And I just made the Ferrari deal in New York City. So in my building,
Ferrari dealer or
there was,
their
It
offices?
was a Rolls-Royce dealership on the ground floor,
Got it.
and the retail store next door became available. So I thought it'd be a great idea to put
Sure,
a Ferrari
smart.
dealership. So I
Luxury retail,
did all my due diligence, and Mr. Gino Ferrari came to New York, and I made the deal.
Did he give you a Ferrari in lieu of
Didn't
commission?
ask for it, but basically. So the point is, I'm just starting to get rolling, and I'm working very hard.
You're making it happen. You're
And
growing
then,
your business.
Because of the cost of rents in New York was so expensive, most married couples go out to a place called Forest Hills.
Okay.
So it's a very lovely
Long
neighborhood.
Island.
It was right in Queens, but it's a very nice spot. And in those days, you had telephone operators answering the phone. So if you call someone, you spoke to the operator,
Right.
and she would plug in
Little
the
different.
various, numbers.
Neighborhoods and numbers.
So what that did is really prohibited a lot of personal phone calls because everyone knew who was calling in.
Got it.
And so on and so forth.
Wow. A lot of
when
gossip around
so
that.
when I came, exactly right, to eliminate gossip. So I came home on a Thursday night, and we're in our one-bedroom apartment in Forest Hills on the ground floor with 18 bars in the window, 19 locks in the front door, one bed, one couch.
Sounds luxurious.
And my wife Francine is sitting on the couch. She's crying like a baby. So I said, Francine, what could you possibly be crying about?
Right.
I haven't talked to you all day. What's up? What's going on around here? My father came over, and he's moving the entire family to California for business reasons.
Boom, just like that.
Just like that. And Francine, again, marrying her out of her family, being left all alone in New York City, she became very concerned. At the same time, California in the 60s and 70s was
It's a lot
really,
different than it is today.
New Yorkers have a whole different attitude
Sure.
towards the great state of California, especially the folks living in LA. And being a New Yorker and Fran being a New Yorker, it was a major decision. And she asked me if I would move to California. And I was out in California during the college days, and it was really nowhere near, the density and the propensity of what it is in New York City. But I was going to NYU real estate school at night, and the professors there were not teachers, but they were the guys that owned New York.
Got
The
it.
big landlords.
They were landlords.
The big brokers, landlords.
Major players were
players teaching
very
NYU.
different now.
So they kept insinuating, take your New York chutzpah and go west. So my wife
So they were
Francine,
preaching that. That was
they were
something. That was a
basically- it
narrative
was an
that hey,
area
that
that
there's
was very
opportunity.
much, so my wife Fran asking me and going to school. So we decided to come out, and obviously it's quite beautiful. But I had a major decision to make. Either we get divorced, because I was very ensconced in New York.
Yeah, stuff was starting to happen.
Born and raised. I was just now making a definite move. Or
Start over.
Take a shot in my life, which I've always done by going to boarding school and always being independent, is maybe take this opportunity to make something and see how it goes, knowing that I always can go back to New York.
Right. So you went for it. You moved to California.
After contemplation, I decided to make the move with my wife, Fran, which has proven to be a blessing and a big blessing in doing so.
Yeah, we wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for that move.
Exactly right. It was a major situation. So we came out here. It's 1973. That was the time of the first oil embargo.
Okay.
So because being a New Yorker, we wanted to fly out, get to work. So we put all our belongings on the Beacon's moving and storage company.
Right.
And because there was gunshots along the Pennsylvania highway because of the oil embargo, the surcharge to move all our belongings became very expensive. I just bought a brand new Buick Skylark. And
nice. Nice ride. Skylark.
I had that all on the train, the Baltimore-Ohio Railroad.
It's all coming to California.
I'm flying out to L.A. because now March or so, I got to get back to work and get myself going here. So we have a place on Burton Way that, of course, we made a deal but didn't sign the lease. And the day before coming out, we're told that the building is going to foreclosure.
Oh, great.
And the security deposit that we put up could be in jeopardy.
Oh, God, you're going to lose
the real estate business, right?
Yeah.
So that's going on. We're moving to California. My wife is not eating that much.
Real smooth
it was
transition.
a very tense time. And so we fly out like the rainstorms here we're having come out in March. It's raining like cats and dogs. I go to my in-laws' house when we first arrive on the airport. And my mother-in-law wants to talk to me privately. I said, well, what's up? Why can't we discuss it? No, I really got to talk to you privately. So I go into her den, and she says, I got a phone call today from the Baltimore-Ohio Railroad. I said, great, where's my car? Well, that's the problem. Your car fell off the train.
Oh, no.
And totally
How does that
demolished.
happen?
A brand new car. That's how I said. I thought, what was it? It was in Colorado? Was in the mountains?
fall off?
Right in Staten Island. It wasn't attached on.
Oh, no.
So all my brand new car, all my sports power, all the
So
things
you're just
that I
taking
cherish.
blows.
So I'm getting hit left and right. Now I got to buy two cars. So the first 6 months was not what you call a smooth transition.
Right. You weren't a happy
camper. In New York
camper.
City, I'm a real estate broker. The broker's license exam is like a 30-page pamphlet. You read it, you go in, and you pass it.
Yeah.
Then I need to become a broker in L.A.
Right. So you have to get licensed in California.
Why study? So I get the invitation to go down to the convention center.
That's where you took the test then?
3,000 or so people down there.
Taking the real estate exam in the convention center.
I opened up this book. I said to myself, this is like a foreign language.
Right.
Got houses and joists and roofs.
So couldn't have been more polar opposite than what you knew, and you had no clue what they were talking about.
No clue. So, of course, I failed the test.
Brilliant.
So I failed the test. I'm trying to do deals in New York. There are a few earthquakes taking place. We organized our deal with the Burton Way place. I just bought two cars. I have very little money coming in, like zero. And this is not part of the program.
Yeah. So you're stressed out.
I'm stressed out. So now I'm going to UCLA Law Library at nighttime to study for the next exam.
For the exam.
For the exam.
God.
But finally, things settled down. And being a New Yorker and being a foot canvasser, I'm canvassing every single day and knocking on doors.
Meaning literally walking into buildings?
Walking buildings. And that time, L.A. was a cow town. You had a few buildings in Westwood, a few buildings downtown of any consequence. Otherwise, it was all low rise. and not.
And give me an example. What would you do? There's a building in Westwood. You would literally park your car, walk right into an office. It's a high rise at that point?
High rise building, about 8:30, quarter 9. In those days, I have about $3 or $4 of coins in my pocket.
Because you're using payphones, obviously, no cell phones.
And then with no Google, nothing there. So I'd walk in and I would ask to see the president of the company.
I mean, you'd walk right into an office.
Right into the receptionist. And I would ask who the president is, because that gives it away immediately. I'm not sure. I'm not having a meeting. Make a long story short, I would canvass the building from 8:30 until about 12.
You'd be in one building or multiple buildings?
But basically,
so you're hitting a lot of different offices.
Taking notes, knowing what's going on. It was a full floor. I would ask the receptionist before I left, could I please use the restroom? And by doing that, I was able to scout out where the president's office was or wasn't. So I got myself a lay of the land.
So you were strategically figuring out the layout, who are the key players, who was in what office.
You want to see the ceilings, are they old? You want to see the place. You want to get a sense of what's really taking place in the environment of the office.
Yeah, so you were doing research on the buildings too.
And then break around 3:30, come back around 4, and then go back to where I was that morning. So now I know who I'm asking for. And around 5:15, I know the receptionist was gone. So I got past that issue. And then you have to go through the executive secretary. So
now you're at the next layer of defense.
So I would get in, and in that 5:30, 6 zone, most of the executive secretaries were gone. And that was the key. Walk right in.
So you go in late, you come in late.
Right, that was the idea. So canvass in the morning, see what's going on, weigh the land, get
And this
organized.
was your daily routine. This is what you did.
I knew every telephone booth from here up to Moore Park.
And how long did it take doing that to get traction in this and know, hey, this is actually working. I'm putting deals together. I'm making a living.
At the time in the 60s and early 70s, San Francisco was the financial capital of California. But the population was substantially larger to be in Los Angeles. So the banks now started to look at LA as the growth potential.
Got it. So LA was starting to take off as a major region.
I made a deal with Alameda Bank. At the time was the Arco Center downtown, now City National Bank. And from there, I then started to go fly back to New York and meet all the banks.
Got it.
And bring them out here. So from
so you
the
use
70s to the mid-80s, I virtually dominated the international banking community.
So that put you on the map in a big way.
That basically was where I really concentrated. And not like today where the buildings are locked off.
Yeah,
but,
I got to think it's very different today.
Every night I would, and I still do it today, the best I possibly can, go out and knock on doors, meet people, and that's how the whole company got built up.
And you started your own company by 78. Travers. By the time you started Travers, were you at that point already rolling and the business was established?
I always wanted to have my own company. So I worked from 1978 with a company called Milton Meyer, which is now the Shorenstein Company.
Okay.
Same people. And then those guys left and formed their own firm for a while. So I worked in Westwood, and then I always wanted to have my own company. I just made a very important deal out in Warner Center for about 200,000 square feet. So I made a very big deal, and the time was come to be on my own.
So you made a big deal. I'm like, this is the perfect time. Let's leverage this to start
and so I went across the street to what was the Occidental Petroleum Building in Westwood.
In Westwood, on Wilshire.
Westwood. I had a small office. And
it was just you?
Just me.
And was that your concept when you started? Like, hey, it's just me. I just want my office. Or was your concept, hey, it's going to start with me and I'm going to turn into CBRE or one of the big shops? What was your mindset for that?
The big concept was to form a company that would only represent tenants.
Yeah, so that's a big thing because tenant rep now is normal, but back then there was no tenant rep.
It was a shock to the system when I registered my name, Travers Realty, the tenant's broker. The whole world was laughing at me.
It didn't really exist. No one knew what you were talking.
It's impossible to have a company focusing on one small piece of the pie.
Got it.
Where you have to have income coming in from residential, but management, asset management,
right. A full broad portfolio of different asset classes.
I understand that, and so I believed in myself. I always did take a major bet on myself.
So you took the risk. Focused on a niche that everyone said you're nuts, and you blew up.
Right.
And
my first deal was really with Exxon Corporation, moving them from Century City out to Westlake. And so
was that a big deal or just one of your first deals?
It was. That was my first major deal under my own name.
Got it.
But so I made a big deal with the insurance company to go out to Warner Center under the old regime.
Yeah.
And that was so I was just killing it for about 5 or 6 years because no one was able to really do
what you were
I was doing. And that, as you said, today the word tenant brokerage has been so diluted. It really has.
Yeah, now it's commonplace, and
it's commonplace.
It's a big business, and every big company has a tenant rep division, or people are focusing on tenant rep. So that's an interesting point, thinking about then versus now. Obviously, the world has changed. You were talking about door knocking and canvassing. I'd be curious your take now that now it's 2019. I would think back then the person getting into commercial real estate, you were from New York, you were street smart, tough, smart. But now we're getting the Harvard MBA, the Stanford MBA. Everyone's really coming from all this pedigree to get into commercial real estate. Door knocking, probably a lot different. What do you see? What has changed the most versus when you started in the late 70s to now?
You hit the nail on the head. Today, my reputation has been built on making phenomenal real estate deals. We're economically very well driven. In fact, I made a big deal downtown, and I got a letter from the landlord saying this is the most terms and conditions they've ever offered to anyone in their 2 million square foot project.
Right. Well, that's kind of been your thing. It sounds like your reputation is you've gotten some big deals, but big deals that were known to be great value deals for the tenant, which is rare in a market like this where the landlords usually dominate and dictate terms. So
But Danny, that's the change.
That's changed. That's one of the big changes.
That's the whole change. Today, as I mentioned before recently, walking in now and saying to a prospective customer that I can out-negotiate any broker, any place, anytime, anywhere, and here's all the backup to support what I'm saying, is totally goes in 1 year out the other.
Got it. So that's not compelling, these days?
That is no longer the whole factor. So there's been a major change in my whole entire program. Today, they do want the Harvard, the Stanford. They want to see a major
spreadsheets.
Team. They want that we do, but they want to see a whole team of logistic players coming in for labor statistics. The consulting side. Is this the right location? Where should I be? So
very
they want
corporate.
to have much more of a whole attitude in making a real estate decision that I'm used to, that I grew up with, is go in and just get me the
best deal possible.
I work with a lot of very, very, very wealthy individuals owning companies. That has not changed. So I deal with the top chairmen of the board. They love it. But going to a major corporation today and meeting the head of real estate or vice president, they just want a whole different perspective.
Got it.
And so that is where the world has changed.
So you're not dealing with the chairman of the board or the principal these days. There are big companies, and there's the head of real estate that is not the owner of the company. And
right. That's the key. So I try to deal with it because that's where where the relationship
advantage
comes in.
Right.
But in this day and age, it's changing.
There's several layers of corporate people involved.
They want the big flags all over the world. They want different things. So the economics today is not as big of a factor.
It's just one piece of the pie, not the entire thing.
So if Travers can save you $2 or $3 million, that's great on the real estate deal, but we can save you $5 to $10 million on an employment analysis.
Got it.
You should be here rather than there, and the incentives. So that's why after 41 years, about 5 years ago, we joined Cressa.
Right, you merged with Cressa, bigger tenant rep.
Which is the largest tenant brokerage firm in the world, and we have all the consulting strength and capacity. So we made that adjustment to be able to compete.
So
in this world.
you had to bob and weave and adjust
Exactly
or
right.
survive, right?
Exactly right.
Re-evolve, reposition.
That's the
So
whole
that
thing.
said, you're still very involved. You're doing still lots of big deals. And what are some of like the most interesting deals? Whether it's big, whether it's the biggest, whether it's the most complicated, whether it took. What are a couple stories? I hear some things. I hear more stories from outside the family because you
Right.
never talk about the deals you do. I know that's
Right.
something you don't like to, but I'm putting you on the spot now. I'd love
Sure.
to hear a couple of your big deals or well-known deals or complicated. I'd like to hear a little bit about that.
One deal comes to mind is working with Eli Broad.
Yeah.
Eli Broad owned the Kaufman and Broad Company, and my associate Lawson and I did a deal for KB out in the Valley in Warner Center that was a sparkling deal. It was a great deal. And so the principal of Kaufman and Broad recommended me to meet with Eli Broad. Just bought Sun America.
Okay.
And they were located at 11601 Wilshire Boulevard over here in San Vicente and Wilshire.
Brentwood.
At Brentwood. So I met with Eli's right-hand person, Benita Kunzman, a lovely lady, tough as nails, very sharp.
I bet.
And she kept saying, do you really want to meet with Eli? He's very, very tough. He's very strong.
Sure.
And I said, sure. We got to meet with him. We got to meet with him. So we met with Eli, and sure enough, he really asked all these very, very, very serious, detailed questions.
He's not screwing around.
But he was very serious and made some phone calls and to verify my credentials. And he hired me and my associate Lawson, but only on a very small parameters. He was at the building, I said, the World Savings Building, 11601. And the mission was for me, if I'm such a strong negotiator, have World Savings take their name off the building and put my name on top.
Put his company's name, even though it's their building.
Sun America. And as far as you can go is Westwood. So I said, Eli, it's a pretty tight market.
Yeah.
I know, Jim, do it. So make a long story short, I have World Savings agree to share the signage with Sun America, but that wasn't good enough. And the two buildings in Westwood just went into foreclosure, and the bank took back the buildings, and they were not in a position to make a real estate deal.
Got it.
So Lawson and I are scratching our heads. What are we going to do here? Well, there was a new building being built in Century City at 1999 Avenue of the Stars.
It was being built.
And I went with Lawson to the owners, J&B, out of Chicago, and said, why don't we give Eli signage on top of the building and give him a tremendous signing bonus for him to come over to Century City. And as sure as God made apples, they said, who are you? You're coming to my office. You're dictating to
you're
me
nuts.
that you want me to put up Eli's name on top of the building, and you want me to pay him a huge multi-million-dollar signing bonus to come into my building that basically were 85% leased. I said exactly what we are communicating. He said, in that case, there's the door. Please leave. I said, you're making a mistake. You're making a mistake. Don't kick me out. He said, please leave. Okay?
Kicked you out of his office.
He just basically, the ball game is over, not doing it. Make a long story short, everyone's kept telling me in Century City, no one has a top of building signage and you can't get it.
Got it.
So Lawson and I went down to City Hall and we read the CC&Rs for Century City, and it was developed by Zeckendorf, a major, he really is the father
Of Century City?
Of mass development. He's known throughout the United States, and he bought the back lot of Fox Studios.
Okay.
And he was a developer of Fox Studios.
So that was all the back lot? That's what Century City was?
Yes, that's all Century City is a back lot of the studio. And Alcoa Aluminum was his financial partner. Make a long story short, we read literally the entire CC&Rs, and it proved to be that the landlords control the sign rights in Century City.
So they make the decision.
J&B was the largest owner in Century City. They own the Twin Towers. They own the hotel.
So they own everything.
Own everything. So I called up Chicago, and I said to her, the ball game is back on, guys. The ball game is back on. We can get sign rights. Give me the sign rights, and we'll take the top 5 floors of the building. And negotiations proceed. The only issue is we haven't told Eli this yet.
Great. Are you going to get him from Westwood to Century City?
So we speak to Benita, and she is very much a brand new building. And we go to Eli's house in August, and Lois and I meet with Eli. And
Nice.
we give him the news that we have this great deal for him, but it's not quite Westwood, and
Close.
it's not quite. And could he please give me the opportunity to come see the building?
Yeah. So what does Eli have to say about that?
Jim, I said, Eli, please, just come see it. I got the sign rights, everything's ready. So Benita, myself, and Eli, we drove over to Century City, went upstairs,
Top 5 floors.
we took it,
Nice.
and took the deal. And so that was
How much space is five floors at that
It's like
point?
120,000 square feet.
great deal.
Great deal. So I've been with Eli now for all these years.
Got it. So that's
I-
fascinating.
So that's been my cup of tea. So those kind of deals.
And you did recently the new Warner Brothers Records deal. That was an interesting deal because it was downtown, the Arts District, and that sort of really put
So Warner Music
Arts
was
District
located
on the map.
in
Burbank
in
forever.
Burbank.
And then for
the
the-
building that they're in, Jeff Worth and his father-in-law David Paul,
Right.
and myself, and my 2 associates, and John Matthews, unfortunately, who passed away. He was the head of real estate for the Warner Music. We designed a building on the back of a napkin for Warner Music to move into a new building in Burbank. And so we designed the building back on a napkin, made the deal, and made a 20-year lease. And the 20 years has come up and expired. So about 2 years ago, my associates at Cressa, Jerry Porter and Matthew Miller and myself, competed for the assignment because everything's changed.
Yeah.
We got the assignment, and Warner Music did not want to go to the West Side because the pricing was much too expensive.
high. Yeah.
But they wanted a wow factor. They wanted something special.
Right.
And so I was in downtown, for almost 35 years at the time, 40 years. And I was asked to go look at a property in the Arts District.
Right, which now the Arts District is well known, but back then.
It wasn't for Warner Music, it was for someone else.
Got it.
So I'm in the Arts District, and I'm downtown, and I had to put in my GPS system.
Sure. No one went to the Arts
I had
District. It wasn't the
absolutely no
trendy
idea.
restaurant, art
It's down
gallery
7th
situation.
Street. So I find the building, and I'm touring space with this potential client I made a deal with. I'm saying this building is beautiful. Henry Ford built this building in 1914. It's a 256,000 square foot building, 3 levels. And Shorenstein, my old company I used to work with, just bought it, and they're bringing it back to life. So I walk it, and I call my guys at Warner Music. You got to come see this thing. This could be really fantastic. And sure enough, they came down.
And this is Cam and that crew, the Cam Strange that I know, involved with Warner Brothers.
Exactly right. So he came down, and if that was him, that was the one.
Right,
that
he was the
impetus.
chairman or the president.
Right, and he said yes. And sure enough, we made the deal, and they're in. It's moved in just recently.
Oh, they actually are in now.
Right, so it changed the whole complexion of the Arts District.
And that
650.
building was originally a factory for
The Ford factory.
It was Ford factory.
It
right?
was Henry Ford's first building he built outside
Insane.
Detroit.
So that was Henry Ford built that building, and it was
1914.
dilapidated, and it got completely
They were there for 35 years,
restored.
and then it fell into dilapidation.
And how many years did it take to upgrade the building before?
2.5 years.
Okay, that's not bad for an old building.
But it was a beautiful building, and it's very exciting.
And that's located what street?
On 7th Street.
Yeah, that's an incredible
So
story.
that's so that made was the Arts District. What made us move down there? The amenity base is all there.
Now it's there.
It was all there. So that was the key. So all the restaurants.
Sure.
I think Napa Valley is known for wine. Arlington is known for coffee. Every coffee shop is there.
Yeah.
So it made it very nice.
A lot of
All
great
the young
restaurants.
kids are there. You're walking their dogs. Everyone
Yeah.
having a white T-shirt on. You're torn out jeans.
Yeah.
Living in the old apartments. So it has a great environment.
Yeah.
And so it was the environment that made us move there because we were
Yeah.
being a pioneer on the office side, but the amenity base was already intact.
Right. So I've always heard about a deal. I've read in the press and other people mention it. I don't want to spend too much time on deals because I want to move on to the other thing. But you were involved with the deal, and I can't remember the company, but it took a decade to complete. What is I know that must be a really long story, but what is the short story of this?
It took me 13 years. I went through every possible issue. Nothing to do with the real estate side of the equation.
Oh, okay. So
But we were negotiating for a major new development at Warner Ridge with the Spound family, and the Spound family had a partner. And the
Warner Ridge, is that Burbank? Like
No,
Warner
it's right
Center?
in Warner Center.
Yeah, Warner Center.
And make a long story short, the financial partner fell out of bed, and J.P. Morgan came in, took over the procedure, and they were going to build us $700,000 building.
So they had to build from scratch.
And they're going to build from scratch. And then
So how does it take 13 years?
Well, saying to so after about 3.5 years negotiating with J.P. Morgan to do the deal, get the building ready to go, J.P. Morgan was using us because the Johnson Wax was a developer with the Spound family, and they foreclosed. And so J.P. Morgan,
Oh, so you now have a new landlord.
Start
all over?
And so they settled up with Johnson Wax, and they told us the deal is not happening.
Got
So
it.
that 3.5 years occurred. And then we went over to a new building and the Warner Center, built by Bob Voigt. It was a 25-story building. We were moving in, and the earthquake came. And that earthquake absolutely destroyed the
This is
entire
the North
integrity.
Ridge? Are we talking 1994?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, make a long story short, from the time we started to the time we finished, it was 13 years that it took me to make the deal to stay
Jesus.
where we were and have a new building built next door to us.
That's insane. But that's
Yeah.
not. And what's the normal sales cycle for a client? A year or 2 years?
I would say, depending upon the size, it's a minimum of a year to 3 years.
Yeah. I'm going to switch gears here and kind of get into more of the who you are, what makes you tick. Obviously, your reputation and personality in business is that you're aggressive, straightforward, tough negotiator, tough as nails. But you also have another side of you, which I happen to know. You're a very dedicated family man. Your wife, children, your friends, and family are your most important thing. How are you able to switch it on and off? How are you able to work in a tough competitive business, which it is, but then be able to switch it off and happen to be, how do you dedicate yourself as a family man and balance it all?
Yeah, that's basically my choice that I made, is that having a family was very important to me. And the reason why I work so hard is to support the family in the manner by which we do. So I really wanted to make sure that I was very devoted to the family. From a personal point of view, I felt that having 2 daughters and to being a leader, as I've always been, is to show them, what it is to be married and to have trustworthy parents and to be able to rely upon us as a guiding light, for their life. And obviously, we're very happy that Jessica, obviously married you. And
Thank you.
But the point is, it's been a very important for us that to raise
Yeah.
the kids to kind of emulate what we have tried to be a pioneer on, and not to fall into the world of other issues. So we try
Yeah.
to be very straightforward, and that's been a major factor. My wife Francine has been really the key factor behind all that, as far as the guidelight
Right.
of trustworthiness and being honorable and being religious and knowing the importance of family.
Yeah. Yeah. And what is your routine? Do you have a daily routine to get you going? I mean, every day to get ready to go fight the fights that you need to fight. Do you have a...
Every day, 5:30 up, ready to rock
So
and
up
roll.
early.
Up early. And
Has it always been this way for many years?
Always been this way. And that's it. So then I don't have a computer. I have my own brain. And so I think every day, like today, I have everything mapped out on what I'm doing, where I'm going, and who I want to see. Before I came here, I had a breakfast meeting, And then I had about 2 hours to spare. So I went canvassing before I got here.
Got it.
And so I went
Any
knocking on
leads?
doors. I met some people. I didn't get what I wanted. But
Did you get kicked out of any buildings?
Not yet, but I certainly went in there. And so I had some time. So the point is, I'm very, very motivated to keep myself going. And I think about every single day, if I didn't have any money, how am I going to earn money today?
So that's on your mind every day when you wake up.
Consistently on my mind.
Starting from zero,
Right, basically, never look back or get myself as being an athlete as you are. You get fat and happy. I've seen so many people in our business have been successful, get fat and happy, think that they are on top of the world. And the reality is, you're never on top of the world. So I'm very humble from that point of view.
Only as good as your next at bat kind of mentality.
I look at all the athletes like John McEnroe. He was a top tennis player in the world. Locker room boys couldn't beat him. He had an issue with his wife. He took a sabbatical for 6 months. He never came back.
Yeah.
He never came back. So being a very sports oriented and being very involved, I realized either I'm going to do this thing 1,000%. Every single day.
So you're all in every morning, every day.
Every day. Otherwise, it's not worth doing because, as you say, it's very tough. I'm definitely a person that people love to knock off the top of the hill. And so if you hear the things that I hear or what I'm told people say about me, it's astonishing. But that's just the way life is. Just keep on going.
Well, we think highly of you, Jim, so don't worry what everyone else thinks. So your routine is to think about getting organized for your day. Do you have any meditation or mindfulness that you do, or you don't do any of that? You're just motivated, organized, and go.
Exactly right.
And how about working out? Do you have an exercise routine? Like, what do you like to do?
Basically, on the old days, if I was up and out, now I'm doing about an hour exercise in the morning. And then I walk every night, as you know. So I try to keep myself.
And your exercise, you walk a lot and what?
I walk a lot and use a stationary bike.
Yeah. So you are working out, and that is probably part of the reason that keeps your energy up.
Exactly right. It's very important.
Cool.
Yep.
Well, any other anecdotes you want to share about your career?
No, basically, it's amazing sitting here and talking to you. But without discussing myself, is that the tremendous impact that I've had in the greater Los Angeles area is amazing for one person. You're coming out, 40 years ago, but in every area from Moore Park to Calabasas, to Warner Center, to Encino, to Burbank, to Beverly Hills, to downtown,
all of it,
to Pasadena. I've made the biggest deals in those areas. So, as you know, most brokerage firms and brokers concentrate in one or two areas, where I've had the good fortune of really being tremendously involved all over Los Angeles, as well as the United States. I'm still very involved in New York. I'm very involved in Texas. I'm very involved in Florida. So I have a reputation that I built. So I like the idea of being able to make a major impact. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's an interesting situation.
Yeah. If someone wanted, or if someone was a up and coming commercial broker, what would be your advice be to them? What would they focus on? What would be a couple points?
Danny, it's as simple as this. I have a 1:30 meeting right now. I've been calling this company for the longest time. I haven't gotten in. I got in today, and they already told me they're interviewing 5 other brokers, and they're making a decision next week. And I said, stop, you got to see me. I'll be there 1:30 today. So the idea
So you're still going through that.
I'm still going through that. So that's basically why I am who I am, because I'm very humble, knowing that what I've done is the accolades
doesn't matter what
I have
happened
achieved
in the past.
is all very nice. But at the end of the day, it's really the persistency and having a focus and having a state of mind that you need to be who you are and get that point across.
Being a commercial broker or being in real estate, you're the antithesis of what most big brokers are. It's usually the opposite. It's usually everyone amplifying how big their deals are, how fancy their life is, the cars they drive, the fancy stuff, their client. You've actually are the antithesis,
totally
which is really interesting because it's a good lesson to learn for, the next generation of up-and-comers. Like, look what you've done, and you've taken the approach of, hey, you're only as good as your next at bat. Don't worry about how big a deal you did last week or last year. You're starting over.
Totally relevant.
Starting over, work hard and hustle. You got to hustle from day one.
But have the focus.
And how long do you see yourself doing this?
Well, I think as long as I can keep my health
As long as
going,
they let you?
as long as I keep myself going. But that's all I know. I've been doing this since 1969.
There you go.
That's a long time.
Do the math. That's a good
single
run.
day knocking on doors since 1969.
Good run.
It's amazing. And all my deals that that we've made virtually have come through going through the front door on my own. I'm not one for calling up people and asking for a referral. Obviously, if I made a relationship, I'll try and use that referral.
But
I won't call you up first to say, can you get me a meeting with XYZ? I'm very much a self-starter.
Hardcore door knocker, prospector.
Right. And I told my brokers that every deal, if you lose it, it's all you. It might be circumstances that's occurred, but it's all you. So
it always is. Eat what you kill. It's on you.
That's it. And so that's what I would say. It's a great business. The freedom is phenomenal, right? And right now I'm going through some issues with some people that I'm very close to that are in their prime time, but the world has changed. They've been on salary, they've been working, and they're being let go.
Got it.
And it's very, very difficult, and I feel very upset because they devoted their lives to these big companies, but the different direction comes in. You're 58 years old, devoted 25 years to a company, and then being told that you're out of here.
Well, that's one thing that they can't tell you as a broker.
I'm fired every day. I'm fired every day, so it doesn't matter.
Just keep showing up.
That's my whole premise. I never wanted to be on a salary.
Yeah.
I just couldn't see it. Even I was saying in college, I said to myself, why would I want to do that? Have a family, be dependent, and all of a sudden get a phone call or in the hallway, how it's happening these days. Jim, we're going someplace else. Thank you very much. You've been great, but
here's a pink slip. So long,
and the ball game is over.
It's been nice.
So I really have been very strongly committed my whole entire life. I'm betting on myself.
Entrepreneurial, invest in yourself, bet on yourself.
Invest in yourself, no one else.
Well, I don't want to keep you too long. I know you probably have an appointment or a building to go knock in, but it was so great to have you. It was amazing.
Danny, thank you very much for the
opportunity. We can talk for more hours another time, have you back again, but appreciate you being here, and go get to the next building that you need to get to.
Thank you, Danny. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Great. Thank you for listening to The Deal with Danny Brown. Please do us a favor and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts, whether it's iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, anywhere else. Also, you can always follow me on Instagram at Danny Brown LA. Appreciate you following up. Please tell your friends. Talk to you soon.